I feel like we need to start introducing ourselves. I feel like our videos are getting traction. People need to be reminded of who we are and what we're doing. So I'm Nick, this is Fowles, and we're
And that was our
using our
intro.
spare time
And that
to
was our
talk
intro.
about it. Yeah, yeah, but that's okay. I think it's just fluid, it's clearly real. So you want to talk about some fantasy observations. Now, are you talking specifically about players to keep an eye on? Are you talking about what's happening in our league? What are you referencing?
Well, obviously our league hasn't started up. No one's league started up technically because it's still the preseason. Anyone that's in the league right now is pretty much just drafting or adding or dropping players, like we're sort of doing a little bit. But I
Yeah.
guess the fantasy stuff I want to talk about today is a couple of players that I'm making some real observations on. And actually, I'm looking at my list here, and I'm sort of like, I think there are probably three negative observations that I have, to spin right now from fantasy land, man. And I guess maybe the first one here, man. I'm going to start with our main man in the New York Knicks. I don't know if he's a main man. Actually, he's probably the fifth wheel. Yeah, maybe that's little bit of an overreach there. Where Josh Hart, man, Josh Hart. I think we need to talk about Josh Hart. Have you been watching any of these preseason games, or at least looking at box scores or highlights or anything like that?
I have. I've looked at all the box scores because I'm really interested in how my players are tracking. So this is a great segue into my cat gamble is looking nice after today's performance. But I'm going to preempt what you're going to say with Josh Hart. I think you're worried that Josh Hart's role last season, which was almost like a second to first option depending on what was happening, has shifted down now, and he's no longer the priority in the top three. Is that what you're going to say?
Oh man, look, Josh Hart. Maybe you're saying he was second or third option, maybe when everyone was injured, right? Everyone was injured at the Knicks, and therefore by default they had to give him the ball, and he had to do something with it. Yeah, but yeah, man, I think right now he's been starting the preseason. I think he's slated to start for obviously for this Knicks team that's really deep, and it's pretty clear on paper he's probably the fifth option, and that's okay. I was okay with all of that, and I grabbed Josh Hart. I think in some of my leagues, I think even in our league, I think I have Josh Hart. I'm not sure, but I think in one of my teams, and I'm sure people went out there and grabbed him and thought, hey, this is a pretty versatile, forward that can do sort of a bit of everything: score, pass, rebound, and so on and so forth. But it's not really promising when he plays 25 minutes and attempts zero shots. Like, dude, like, surely you could get like a couple of looks, right? Like, your teammates just ignoring you, or what's going on here? But I'm not feeling high on Josh Hart. I'm sort of weighing, do I drop him or do I just wait and see the first week or two? But I'm feeling already, my gut feeling is that I'll probably go, hey, there's probably players out there that are probably going to get more production. Out
I
there.
think I think the big conversation piece here is that the preseason is about trialing unique lineups and unique settings and integrating people. And so for the Knicks, their focus currently is Mikal Bridges and Cat. It's not Josh Hart. They know what Josh Hart's going to give them and they know what they want him to do in the offense. Um, you know, I looked at the Spurs, like I'm a Chris Paul enthusiast and keen to see what he does. But it looks like the Spurs are trying to channel their offense through Stefan Castle, right? And I think that's the thing with preseason that can be deceptive. Your star players don't typically play a lot, and even your deep role players, I'm talking sixth, seventh guys. They're getting a run around and they're doing stuff, but I just don't think the onus is on them to do a
So
lot.
you're
So
saying hold
I would
Josh
say
Hart,
hold.
hold
I'd
Josh
say
Hart.
hold. I'd say hold. But I think you also need to be realistic in saying that the Knicks are better, or if you don't believe that the Knicks are better for whatever reason, you would then say the Knicks have more players who are going to dominate the ball. So Josh Hart's production or at least usage will go down, and therefore by proxy would be that. The rebounding could go up though. You look at Cap being a stretch big, where he could fly in for some rebounds and maintain that average because I think it sits around 7. He could still have a couple of threes for you. It ultimately just depends, but it does feel a bit premature to drop Josh Hart.
All right, how about the second one there? I was looking at the box scores here, and it was the where is it? Bring it up. It was the Toronto Boston game here. Yeah, and Boston got up a couple points. Who really cares who wins, right, in the preseason? But um, and there's this kid here by the same surname as you. Yeah, you loved this kid a few years ago, right? Davion Mitchell. Yeah, Davion Mitchell, who's now gone to the Toronto Raptors, a whole new sea change, right? Isn't that what he needed, right? Because Sacramento was, you know, deep, and obviously they were trying to chase W's, and he just never really came along in that sort of sense because he was behind Fox, and they had some guards there in that competitive rotation. But he's now in the preseason at his new team, surely trying to make an impression. He'd like a long career. I'd imagine every player would like a long career in the NBA, especially those players that aren't guaranteed that. Yeah, and he puts
Oh,
up 2 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Yeah, and you know what the issue I have here is that when you pull up his regular season average last season, it was 5 points, about 1 rebound and 2 assists. That feels like his ceiling, man. I don't know whether he does anything more, man. I don't know if he is ever going to develop into a guy that gives you even 10 points and 4 assists.
yeah, so this is really interesting. Sorry about the bang, just wind in the house. It's shut a door. Really spooked me. Clip that. But no, I put up basketball reference because that's always a good thing. So he's approaching his fourth season, and in his first season, really fascinating stat line: 11.5 points, 4.2 assists, almost a steal. Almost 2 rebounds. Really solid backup minutes, and he was getting 27 minutes a game. And then that was it. That's as good as it got for Davon Mitchell. And 80 games last season, 72, sorry, 80 games 2 seasons ago, 72 the recent one. But the scoring has dropped in half. The minutes have dipped by 10. Everything's down across the board. But the one thing that I'm finding interesting, narrative is huge. We've talked about narrative being huge for players. And one of the big things for Davion Mitchell was his defense. I really remember hearing about how good of a defensive guard he
Mm,
was,
mm.
how locked down he was, etc.
But
And
statistically,
then I've just pulled up his stats,
statistically,
and it's his career average is 0.5 steals and 0.2 blocks. But last season, never had a block for him to average zero point 0 and had zero point 0.2 steals. Um,
no, no.
I would be quite
He.
shocked if.
If you scroll down a little bit, you here got 3 blocks actually. So I have to stat check you
Okay,
there. He got 3 blocks, but
thank
because
you.
over the course of the season, that actually reflects as zero stats.
Well, it's such a low average, zero point 0.0. Yeah, look, I think no, the new scenery is not going to help. You look at Toronto's guard situation with RJ Barrett coming in, Scotty Barnes being a bit of a wing guard, and then Emmanuel quickly as well getting the bag. They're logjam there anyway.
don't
But yeah, Davion Mitchell,
don't
I'm surprised. This is one of those I forgot that he's been in the league this long and he's not
don't
really doing anything.
don't draft Davion Mitchell. He's a third string point guard. I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say here.
If you
Um,
stumble across an ESPN video from 3 years ago talking about how good he is, just make sure you double check the date because you might get lulled into thinking he's going to do something for you.
so my third take here I had with my observation of the preseason, which has got to do with fantasy, I guess as well, is that why is LeBron even playing? Yeah, I'll get right to the point. Why is LeBron even playing? Why are we even seeing LeBron in the preseason? This guy, like you mentioned, is 55,000 years old, season
Yes.
200. We
Yeah.
know what he can do. He knows what he can do. He had a grumble about going Milwaukee. There's probably some level of legitimacy why they even needed to take, LeBron to Milwaukee anyway. Why is he even playing? And I think that I drafted him in my other league. Yeah. Actually, by default, I ended up with him. I ended up with him because I fell asleep in my other draft. So I ended up with LeBron. I've never had LeBron. Okay, and I guess because I have LeBron, I've had to watch his stats a little bit and make some decision on him and see how I feel about him. And look, if I was a Lakers man, you dress him for 65 games. Yeah, and you try and keep him healthy for the another 20 or so games that you have in the playoffs. That's it. I don't know why you're even dusting him off right now in the preseason.
Well, I'm going to chime in there. It's not for the reason that everyone thinks, which is to hang out with Bronny Jr. It's actually because, and I don't know why I've stumbled across this. Maybe it's my investment in JJ Redick, who I have often spoken about how much I enjoyed his content and felt like he was really interesting. There's been some really interesting breakdowns about how he is trying to coach the Lakers and the offense that they're trying to run there. And similar to what I said before, I think that LeBron and AD have played some preseason games to almost kind of associate themselves with the new style of offense that they're trying to run. So there's a lot of off-ball cutting. There's a lot of movement that's being done. And obviously, LeBron's not going to fit that bill. LeBron is going to be the facilitator in an offense like that, or it's going to transition over to pick and roll with AD. But I guess he's come out to see how that's integrated. That's the only rational reason why I can think that he would be playing preseason minutes, because you're right. He risks injury for complete low stakes, non existent basketball. And also, it doesn't count. So the whole playing, sharing the court with Bronny made the ESPN roulette, but it's not official yet. Like it will be official in a couple of weeks' time when they do that. But right now, I'm pretty sure it's just for coaching purposes and integration.
I don't know about you, man. Like, is Is it a LeBron a player that you try and sell high maybe on this season? I feel hopefully he come.
100%. No,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think as
yeah.
a
No, I'm
fantasy land, yeah.
yeah.
If he comes out of the gates fairly hot, first 20 games or so, I'm like, I want to get rid of him. Yeah, I think if someone
I
could take
I
him
wouldn't
off my
even wait.
hands.
I wouldn't even wait. I actually think that you could actively shop. So this is a fun fact for you. This is a trade that I received that I completely ignored because it was disrespectful. But I had a Damian Lillard for Steph Curry trade proposed to me. Okay, and then I had some additional
It
role
wasn't
players
me.
fill around that. No, it wasn't you. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I believe that if you went to your league and sent a LeBron James trade
Mm.
to a variety of people in that league and asked for like a Zach Levine, De'Aaron Fox esque sort of player, Cade Cunningham sort of player. That to me is a realistic trade where you're getting a youth guy who could play the whole season versus a guy that could be really good for 3 quarters of it. I actually think you could pull off a trade right now with the name alone, right? And maybe there is a bit of inherent
Do you
risk there
reckon? Do you
because
reckon
he
someone
could
would swing
again
me
roll it through.
LeBron for Sabonis? I feel like I need to talk about Sabonis every week. Like
Well,
what?
actually, okay,
I don't
no.
know.
The reason why I would say yes is because depending on how knowledgeable the average fantasy owner
I could throw
is,
in a sweetener too. I don't mind throwing a second player.
yeah,
Let's
I
sweeten it up.
think if you offered like a LeBron and a Josh Hart, I think that
Yeah.
you could get back a Demontis quite easily. But yeah, look, if you had LeBron right now, I would be shopping only because you never know when there's going to be a gap. He does have the potential to pull a Jimmy Butler and kind of play once or twice every week. And, those stats start to hurt you in different ways. I think fantasy owners need to factor that in. When a player isn't injured, you can't put them on the injury replacement, which
Mhm.
means you can't replace their stats. All you get is a
Correct. Correct.
DNP or you get an out for a day and then they come back. So, yeah, I would sell now. I would sell now.
Sell now. Sell now. It's a like suggestion. Maybe next week if I come back and I say I was able to get Sabonis for LeBron and Josh Hart, man, then
Yeah.
clearly this is valuable content, right? um,
Um,
I got one
can I
more. I got
chime
one
in?
more.
You got one more because
I got one.
I've got three
Oh
on the
yeah,
fly here.
you got
So
a couple too. I got one more. You actually just gave me this name, and I actually was thinking about this guy the other day, and I thought, hey, I'll add him. I'll give you a bonus one here, man. You might not like this, man. You might not like this, man, but you have CP3, right? I
yeah, yeah,
think you should drop CP3, man. Yeah, and
that's
and
ridiculous.
and and let me tell you why. Because one, he's gonna get injured. Two, he's gonna give you terrible percentages because he's old and he can't shoot anymore. Okay, and he's no longer a player that gives you 2 steals a game in that sort of sense. Yeah, his last season averaged 1.2, yeah, which has been declining the last 3 or 4 years now. So the only thing he gives you, CP3 now, is assists, and he might give
Yeah.
you 6 to 8, and that's it. That's it. But he'll still shoot 1 from 7, as he did, I think, in the last game. And I know you tell me it's preseason, but no one's trying to miss shots in the preseason. Yeah, that's the point, right? In any game, okay. And look, man, I think it's a reach, man. Maybe if you're holding him in your 12th, 13th spot, sure. But again, I really think that there's better production players out there with a higher ceiling that you could look at. But hey, man, I don't mind. If you want to hold him, man, definitely hold him for week 1, please.
Yeah, look, I think I guess in conversation here, you're totally right. Maybe over the course of a season, Chris Paul doesn't pan out. But right now, in week one, depending on how deep your league is, you sometimes have to take a couple of flyers, right? You've got your big ticket items like Wemby, Jokic, Giannis. You know that they're going to give you good stats, right? And then you just fill around decent, auxiliary guys. You get, Scotty Barnes, Zach Levine. Like you get guys that can give you stuff. And then those, 12 to 15 sort of position, that's where you think who could be a sleeper steal? And so my logic with Chris Paul is that I could envision him averaging 8 assists and maybe like 1 turnover and decent percentages because he doesn't shoot as much as he has in the preseason. That's what I'm banking on with him. And it's building towards a little bit of a strategy where I'm trying to accumulate some really good assist guys. So I also picked up Tyus Jones because I was able to shift someone to an injury replacement.
Yeah, so that. Good
And
pickup. Good pickup.
that is another player who will do similar to Chris Paul because of the role that he's expected to play, right? Is this really going to do assists and maybe a couple of points here and there? But what I've got now is I've got 15, 16 assists per game really on my team sitting there. And it might be something that I use as a trade chip moving forward. It might be, something that just fixes an area that was going to be weak. It's
Hey,
too hard to predict so
write
early
write
on.
him write him early. see what happens. Hey man, if you're
Yeah,
able to trade CP3,
I
man,
need to
I'll buy you a
lose.
beer, man. I'll buy you a beer, all
All right, cool. I love it.
right?
I need to lose every game against you. That's how fantasy needs to go this year. I need to not beat you and then wait till the finals. That's how it goes.
Who's hot on your
So
list? Who's hot or cold on your list, man?
well, this is the thing. It's more like who's giving me a strong reaction. Now we had one joke draft, but it goes without saying, Bronny James. If for any reason you've picked up Bronny James, the only reason I can think that you would have Bronny James on your team is you've deliberately set a challenge where you're going to win the championship with him on your team. That's the only reason to have him on your squad. He clearly should not be touched. That's it. I'll leave that one alone. I don't want to repeat the obvious ones. You've went definitely very niche, but I just think it's important to highlight some obvious ones too. Josh Giddey, right? So Josh Giddey had a really good game with Chicago, averaging really those rookie stats that we were talking about with the 18, 8, and 8. And that was in limited minutes, and that was with a new bit of a setting. And the Zach Levine fast break highlight has been going around a little bit, but you think about Josh Giddey and you think about the role that he's expected to play on that team, he's essentially expected to be Lonzo Ball, but Lonzo Ball isn't playing and he is. So I think the stock there is even higher than it was a week ago, especially after that short sample of games. And then another one that this is one of the funniest headlines that I stumbled across, and it was too convoluted and specific to send to people, so I just kept it in my head. But LaMelo Ball's stock is significantly higher, but you'll never guess why. Do you know why LaMelo Ball's stock is higher than it's ever been before? Do you get one guess?
Because he's on the floor.
No. He has made the very mature, conscious,
Oh, I know. Actually,
considered
actually,
decision.
I
Yes,
do know. He's
to
decided to
do
put
what?
on not one, but two ankle braces.
So, if you're not aware, LaMelo Ball's actually had a handful of non-contact ankle injuries.
Yeah, yep,
And he always refused to wear ankle braces. He
yep.
was really devoutly against them, just couldn't find the right pair, was never comfortable, etc. And this season, or at least in the preseason, he has made a very strong commitment and acknowledgement that he's going to wear ankle braces this season. And if that is the case, then your Lamelo stock is up because he's already had some impressive stat lines. But you are a little bit more assured that he's going to play because we're not talking about a player like Ja Morant who goes crashing in and hurts himself. And that could be a player that already has lost a bit of stock because he went and, tweaked his ankle and, hurt himself because he was flying around the court. But the fact that LaMelo Ball is making a decision to help himself with a non contact injury that he's had before, that cannot be a bad thing. So
I,
those are
I,
my
I,
little
I,
more mainstream ones.
I saw those headlines too, and I was like, I'm very happy to hear that. And correct me if I'm wrong, man. I rolled my ankle before. I've worn braces for games here and there in that sort of sense. But if you tweak your ankle, but you're wearing a brace, often it's not so bad. Yeah,
Correct.
and I
Yeah.
think that's the thing with LaMelo, man. He's had all these injuries, and obviously I've just ended up with him now, so I'm hoping he plays his 65 to 80 games. That'd be really nice. That
Mm.
that he gets an ankle injury, and everyone goes, "Oh man, people roll their ankle all the time," but LaMelo rolls his ankle and is done for 40 games. That's the problem.
And that's the thing, is it a player decision? Is it an agent decision? Is it a franchise decision? I mean, I was someone who, when I rolled my ankle, I was out for 6 weeks. I just always seemed to do a significant sprain to my left ankle, and I was still strapped up for that. I still had ankle braces on, etc. But if I rolled my left ankle, I would be on crutches for about a week, and then it would take me about 6 weeks to return to play. But after I'd done those significant injuries, then when I rolled my ankle, it would only be about a week or two and those kind of things. So maybe he's just gotten out his big tears. Maybe he's got a couple of grade 2, 3 tears in his ankle. But you know what? If you had to bank on something, bank on the fact that a multi-million dollar player, has made a decision to say, I'm gonna put on an ankle brace, which he's probably not even going to put it on. A trainer's going to put it on for him. So he's literally just going to let someone put an ankle brace on him, and he'll probably play another 20, 30 games now. And that
Yes.
that alone is stock high. So
Was there anyone else on your list here that was hot or cold or?
I mean, look, I'm always gonna fluff my own stuff. I'm gonna plug it. I feel like that debut from Zachary Richer was exactly what I was kind of banking on. And I know that everyone is like, it's the preseason, and this is the thing. When it's good, it's the preseason. When
Yep,
it's
yep.
bad, it's the
What do you get?
preseason.
18 points or something?
But He had a solid 18, a couple of threes, a couple of blocks, a couple
Yep.
of steals, a couple of assists.
Yep.
He did exactly what I had envisioned him to do, and he did it within the offense. So his role is to basically shoot and run the floor, and he did it perfectly. Trey Young really went well against him. I'm excited to see if that pans out for me because, as we always know with rookies, the preseason can go really well and then it's an abysmal season,
Well,
or in Trey's case, it can be really bad and then it takes them a while and then they turn to really good. So
welcome to the NBA Rook, yeah. By the time your main man's on the bench, for 35 minutes a game by week three, that's the reality, yeah. But hey, look, there's some hot and cold players for NBA fantasy land. You should go out there and grab or drop some of these guys.